Hi guys, and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is, of course, Cameron, and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Monday. I hope you all are doing well. It is the live game review to Everton's 1-0 defeat to Aston Villa at Goodison Park on Saturday afternoon. Another defeat for Everton. This time, Duncan Ferguson is hit with his first defeat as Everton caretaker manager, including actually his period obviously in charge in 2019. Didn't lose a game in 90 minutes then, and this one was his first in charge of this period of management, and unfortunately it ended in a loss for Everton. We're going to talk about the game today. We will give a little bit of a managerial update because there's been a little bit more information than what we spoke about last night. Obviously, last night we done a live stream and spoke for quite a lengthy period of time about the state of this football club, the state of the ownership, the fact that there's no direction, there's no plan, there's no desire from the football club, the fact that Farhad Moshiri is letting Kia Jordan come in and stick his nose in and his fingers in every pie when he shouldn't be anywhere near the football club. We spoke about Vitor Pereira and the risks associated with bringing him in, his past working at clubs that have been in a similar situation to what Everton are in at the moment. It hasn't ended well for him there. And yet we just overall give an update on what seems to be going on as Vitor Pereira's name seems to be the latest in the hat, and he seems to be the leading candidate at the moment, albeit last week we had about 4 different leading candidates, so this could change at any point, but we have had a little bit of an update on that situation, so we'll go into talking about that in just a minute. But this is the game review, so we'll largely park the managerial discussions for the moment. If anything comes up later, then we will be doing another live stream. If not, we'll be back talking about the managerial situation tomorrow. Obviously, we've got an international break now, so we haven't got a game for a couple of weeks or so. So we'll have no football to talk about, thank God, for at least the next few days or so. But we do unfortunately have to talk about the defeat on Saturday. Another game that we went into feeling that it was a must-win, and I wouldn't even say feeling that it was a must-win. Let's be honest, it was a must-win. Wasn't it, given the situation that Everton are in? We absolutely needed to get 3 points on Saturday, and we all knew it was going to be difficult. Coming up against an Aston Villa side managed by Steven Gerrard. I said in the preview, this won't be the same situation as the Chelsea game, albeit Dunk being in charge, and there'll be a little bit more fight and there'll be a little more desire. I said that Steven Gerrard will understand the connection that Duncan Ferguson has with Evertonians, and he will understand, what Duncan Ferguson will try and get out of his players, the maximum effort, the desire, the fight, and Gerrard will set his Aston Villa team up to ultimately combat that and to try and match us in that sense, and that's exactly what he did. They come out from the sticks, they ran around, they worked hard, they battled, they weren't afraid to throw tackles in, and although I thought there was a little bit more desire from this Everton team than what we've seen in recent weeks, I thought there was a little bit more effort, there was a little bit more fight, they were pushed a little bit more. We ultimately were lacking in quality at the end of the day, and when you're getting chances and you're not taking them, and you can't stop conceding goals, which is Everton's biggest problem. At the moment off the pitch, there's a lot of issues at the football club. We spoke about the ownership yesterday. We spoke about managerial decisions. We spoke about players and players not being good enough. But the reality is, on the football pitch at the moment, our biggest issue is that we can't stop conceding goals, and we specifically can't stop conceding goals from balls into the box, from set pieces, and it's something that is really, really worrying. And Everton are now sitting 16th in the Premier League, 19 points, just 3 points above Norwich, who have won their last 2 games, obviously one of which being against Everton, the other of which being a really impressive performance at the weekend, and seem to have a boost of confidence at the moment. And we're only 4 points ahead of Newcastle. If Newcastle beat us, in our next Premier League game in a couple of weeks' time, they'll be 1 point behind us, and we truly will be dragged into a relegation battle. And looking at the Premier League table there, I feel like with 18 games to go, albeit Norwich have played a couple of extra games. I think Burnley have played a couple of less games, but with averaging around about 18 games to go, there's 5 teams I'm looking at there that are ultimately competing to not finish in 3 places. So anyone saying we're too good to go down or we're not near the drop, it's nonsense. As the title reads, we can't stop losing games of football, but when will it end? Does anybody see us going to Newcastle in a couple of weeks' time and beating them, given that they've just won, and we'll have a bounce from that? They'll probably spend a considerable bit more money, considerable amount of money before the transfer window slams shut at the end of the month. They'll try and bring in probably another midfielder, maybe another defender. Obviously, there's a real feel-good factor around Newcastle at the moment, albeit the league position and the situation that they're in. There's a feel-good factor about the future of the football club, and Newcastle will be looking at this game thinking this is a perfect opportunity to pick up another 3 points, win 2 on the bounce, and drag ourselves closer to survival, because their idea will be, if we can stay in the Premier League this season, then we avoid that setback of having to go down to the Championship and building back up and getting back into the Premier League. You avoid that, and all of a sudden you can have a fresh start in the summer then. So Newcastle will see this game as an absolute must-win, and we'll see it as an opportunity to beat a side in Everton, who are absolutely awful at the moment. I said it at the weekend, and I'll say it again. We are the worst team in the Premier League at the moment. There's nobody worse than us. And I fear that will give this Newcastle side the drive and the determination to turn up with a plan and with that desire to win the game of football. And I look at it and think, will these Everton players have that same desire? Will the manager who is in charge of that game, be it Duncan Ferguson or somebody else, looks like from what we're seeing on social media, it might be Vitor Pereira, will he have the desire and drive to come in? And, again, he's very much jumping into the deep end. There's no room for, well, he's only just joined the Premier League, so we'll have to give him a couple of weeks to adjust. There's no room to adjust, and that's why I largely don't agree with this appointment. Because although Vitor Pereira might come in and might be absolutely fantastic, of course, he might be brilliant, he might be the best manager we've ever had, and I hope that if he does come in, then that's the case. I really, really do. However, we can't afford to be in this position where, we're 2, 3, 4 games into Vitor Pereira's managerial reign, and we're saying, but he's only just getting used to the league, or he's getting used to the squad, or he's getting used to the players. We can't afford that. And this is why this is a gigantic risk. We need a manager who's going to come in and from day one be able to jump in at the deep end, get his hands dirty, and get results straight away. We need a quick turnover. We need a manager to come in on a Monday and us win a game of football on a Saturday and continue to win games of football for 4 or 5 weeks on the bounce. There's no time for settling in periods. There's no time for getting used to the league, getting used to the players, the systems. That we've got no time for that. And again, Saturday's result proved that right, and it was a really sort of, it hit home Saturday. It was a really sort of negative decision. We've had some bad days as Evertonians recently, of course. We've had some bad days. We've had some bad performances. Norwich was a particular one. A couple of weeks ago, obviously, we had the Merseyside derby, which was, like most Merseyside derbies are, absolutely dreadful. We had Watford, even I think before that, we had obviously Wolves. I went to Wolves myself. That was a really, really dark day for the football club. But Saturday just felt worse than it all, and I think the reason for that being is because we all sat here on Friday and Thursday and said, well, Dunk's back in charge now. These players are going to show everything. They're going to give that fight. They're going to give that desire. They're going to care. We're going to go out there and we're going to be absolutely unbelievable. And we were holding on to this dream of that, everything will be okay because Dunk's there and the players will give everything, and it'll be like Chelsea was. And I think, naturally, I think we all had in the back of our mind the game against Chelsea and the performance against Chelsea, and had the hope that, Saturday would be would be very similar to that. And when it played out and it wasn't very similar to that, and actually, we ended up losing the game. And albeit I do think there was a little bit more fight and desire from the players, I do think there was a little bit more, urgency and maybe a bit more of a want to win the game. We still didn't end up winning the game. We were still lacking quality in key areas. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who I love, and I know some people are jumping on the whole Dominic Calvert-Lewin's not a great striker and he's not very good and we need to move him on and this, that and the other. Some people will say, will disagree, some people will agree. I think Dom is a brilliant striker. And, let's not forget, he's coming back from, a series of big injuries, and he won't be match fit yet. He'll only just be getting back into the rhythm of things. He missed a chance on the weekend that he should have scored. As I said, on the weekend, and I think I said it yesterday as well, for me, Dominic Calvert-Lewin should have been burying the penalty against Brighton to get himself back on goal-scoring form, to get that confidence back, to get that flow back, but he didn't. He went for he went for the spectacular, and that was the complete wrong decision, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean that he's absolutely shite. It doesn't mean that he's, awful and this, that, and the other. He isn't. He isn't. He's had a big injury and he's been out for a long period of time. But anyway, the Dominic Calvert-Lewin stuff is is just another factor of where Everton are at the moment. And, you know, like I said, again, this was another game where I sort of looked at it, and the reason it got to me so much, and the reason I think it was so down, is not only because of the Duncan Ferguson stuff and that sort of hanging on to that dream that it'd be like the Chelsea game and we'd go out there and the atmosphere would be amazing, and it never lived up to that. And to be fair, more fool me for thinking it would, because why would it ever live up to that? Why would we ever be able to relive that day? That day was one of the best days, I think we could all agree, that we've all felt as Evertonians for a long time. A long time. Some people will say ever. Some people will say decades, years. You know, Saturday was never going to be able to live up to that. And the reality is, it wasn't a great game of football. It really wasn't a great game of football. You know, Villa didn't bring an awful lot. I've seen some people saying, Villa were dominant, they battered Everton, it was comfortable. No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. Yes, we gifted them a couple of chances through, you know, Yerry Mina making mistakes, because, again, only just coming back from injury, you know, and being a little bit rusty. John Joe Kenny not being able to pass a ball 5 yards. Again, having two in midfield, which is something the manager got wrong. I love Duncan Ferguson, and I advocated for him to be the manager, and I would still like to see him as the Everton manager, certainly over somebody like Vito Pereira. However, to only play two in midfield when we've been crying out for a 3 in midfield was a poor decision. You know, a poor decision. I get some people saying, well, Alan wasn't fit, but he was on the bench and he come on, and he was arguably our best player when he come on. But it wasn't a great game. Villa, by any stretch of the imagination, didn't dominate. They had a couple of chances. Ollie Watkins had one which he put out. I think Douglas Luiz had a free kick which was tipped over the bar by Jordan Pickford. And yes, we didn't have many either. I think we had one shot on target, which was a Ben Godfrey header. We had the Calvert-Lewin chance in the second half, which was, you know, arguably the chance of the game for Everton, and they scored a goal from a corner, which, as I said, is pretty much like walking into a cafe and getting a cup of tea, isn't it? Really, it's you know, it's the norm for Everton now. You know, Everton conceding a goal from a corner or a set play, as I said, is like going into McDonald's and getting a milkshake or some chips. You just expect it. When you walk into a McDonald's, you're expecting a scran. When you get a set piece against Everton, you're expecting a goal, because we can't defend them. You know, Emi Buendia, who isn't very tall whatsoever, is heading the ball from near enough the outside of the box backwards, and it's looped over everyone. And yes, it might be a little bit unlucky, because I can't remember who the defender is on the line, but I think he gets a touch and it maybe takes it past Jordan Pickford. But we can't afford to, you know, in this situation, sometimes you need luck to go your way. Sometimes you need those shots to be cleared off the line, and you need to get a lucky goal at the other end. And we just, although we're being so bad at the moment, we you know, that luck doesn't seem to be going our way either. And, you know, we should have created more at the end of the day. You know, I appreciate people saying we didn't have the 3 in midfield, and, you know, Decore went off injured, or, you know, we didn't have the young fullbacks on the pitch, and I appreciate all that, but the reality of the situation is we still had Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Damari Gray and Andros Townsend, who a lot of people would argue are our 4 best attackers. Now, for me, Anthony Gordon has to start in every single Everton game now, from now until the end of the season, because not only does he work harder than I think the majority of other players, and does he want it more than the majority of other players, but at the moment he's in better form than any of the other players as well. Our only big chance come from Anthony Gordon picking the ball up, running with it, and putting a wonderful ball into the box for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Now, yes, Dom missed it, and we can sit here and go, but what come of it? But that's not Anthony Gordon's fault. Anthony Gordon did his job. He put the ball in the dangerous area, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin should have done better. He has to start every week now. It's as simple as that. He has to start every week. But, you know, again, as I said, it wasn't a particularly great game of football by any stretch of the imagination. The first half was competitive. They were, as I said, they come out really feisty in that first half. I thought the referee was appalling, absolutely appalling. I thought he was disgraceful, but most of them are. You know, Kevin Friend gave a penalty yesterday because Diego Jota ran into a goalkeeper, and he gave a penalty for it. In fact, he didn't give a pen, and then he went to VAR and shit himself because he was told in his ear that he's got to give the pen because Liverpool have got to win the game. So it's nonsense. But anyway, you know, again, Villa come out from the off. We're physical. We're putting the tackles in. John McGinn, I think, in the opening minute threw a sliding challenge in, which, you know, on another day, a different referee would have given a foul and maybe even a card for. And I said that on Friday we were to expect that. We knew that because of the relationship Steven Gerrard has with a certain club in this city, he will know. Steven Gerrard played, for Liverpool and grew up in this city, and is a Scouser and has been all his life and will be all his life. He will know as much as anyone the relationship Duncan Ferguson has with Everton, and he will know more than anyone that these Everton players were going to come out and fight for Duncan Ferguson and battle and work hard and give everything. So he will have said to his Aston Villa players, you've got to go out and you've got to match that. You've got to want it more. You've got to show your quality more than they have, because if you don't fight, if you don't show it, then Everton will have a much better chance of getting something out of the game, because they're going to do that. And that's exactly what Villa did. And they've done it by putting in hard challenges and getting in our face and pushing high and using their midfield to overrun ours, which, again, was a silly decision by the manager, in my opinion. And it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough, and ultimately, again, it really, really hit home Saturday night, because I think we were all sort of leading on this, Dunk's in charge, so, not everything will be okay as per se, but, get something out of this game and then we can build from that. And then when you lose another game of football and you're sort of looking around thinking, well, what's next? Where do we go from here? Where does the next 3 points come from? You don't know. As I said, I can't particularly sit here and have a go at the players' commitment and desire. Could they have given a bit more? Maybe they could have worked a bit harder, but maybe this squad of players would say we couldn't work a bit harder. It's just that lack of quality. It's just that lack of ability in the final third. But ultimately, our biggest problem... Listen, Dom missed the chance. In front of goal. And because of the heightened situation that we're in at the moment, because of the dramatic emotion that we're currently under, that missed chance makes it seem like Dominic Calvert-Lewin's the worst striker in the world. Had we have got a point out of this game and we were sitting comfortably in the top 7 or 8 and we were in that sort of fight for Europe, you'd look at it and go, unlucky that. We battled with them, we worked hard, Dom missed the chance, on another day he scores it, we move on. It wasn't by any stretch of the imagination. Villa didn't batter us. They didn't run rings around us. This narrative is nonsense. They weren't that good. Don't care what anyone says. They weren't that good. We should have put an awful lot more pressure on Tyrone Mings, because that fella is an awful defender. I thought we were bad with Michael Keane and bloody Mason Allgate. That fella can't defend, and we let him get away with everything. But because of the situation we're in, because we're in a relegation battle, because we haven't won a game for however long, and we've won one in the last 4 months or whatever it is, because of the fact that we've got no manager, no director of football, no medical team, no head of recruitment, and we've got owners at the an owner at the top of the football club who listens to his mate who shouldn't be anywhere near the club because he's an absolute criminal at ruining football clubs, and a chairman who is living in this dream world that Everton are a success even when we're not. Dominic Calvert-Lewin missing a one-on-one, a chance in a game that we needed to get something out of is heightened because of that. Doesn't mean he's the worst striker ever or he's not good enough. Any striker could have missed that chance. We just needed to get something out the game. We needed to win it effectively. And we didn't. And again, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, right, well, we're losing games at the moment because we're dreadful and we're getting outclassed by teams, and we're losing tight games that could go either way. When are we going to start winning? When are we going to start picking up points? When are we going to look at it and go, yeah, we won a game. Might have been lucky, but we won a game. Or we dominated the team today. We won comfortably. And ultimately, the only way we get to that situation is if we stop conceding stupid goals. And at the end of the day, we simply at the moment can't avoid conceding silly goals, and that to me, sorry, it was just the mic looked a little bit, anyway, that to me is the biggest problem. It is because Dom has missed the chance on the weekend. Okay, missed the chance. On other days he'll score them. Damari Gray wasn't particularly great on the weekend. Worked hard, but wasn't particularly great. On another day he's brilliant and he's scoring. Townsend was poor at the weekend. On another day he's more involved. Same with Richarlison. On another day he gets a couple of goals. I don't think the scoring goals is our problem, albeit we didn't score at the weekend. I think our biggest problem, well, I know our biggest problem is avoiding conceding goals. We always sort of, we hang off this thing of, yeah, we'll stop conceding set-piece goals when Yerry Mina's back. And maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, maybe because Yerry Mina's only just returned and it was his first game back. Maybe I'm being a little bit too critical, but the reality is, as I said, Emi Buendia isn't a particularly tall football player, and he still managed to get his head on a corner and loop that ball over everybody into the back of the net. And Yerry Mina was on the pitch. And although we were much better defensively and we looked much more calm defensively as a whole during the game, we're still conceding silly goals. We're still conceding set pieces. And I don't know how we fix this. I really, really don't. Will Vito Pereira be able to come in and fix this? I don't think he will, personally. But then again, I don't know what manager could come in and fix this. I really, really don't. Because we just seem to be conceding the same type of goal every week, without fail, week in, week out. And it is going to get us relegated at the end of the day. Because then we're so reliant. Every week, we're reliant on the attackers to win us a game of football. Every week. The attackers are probably thinking, why can't we rely on the defence to keep us in games? Why can't we rely on the defence to get a clean sheet? Now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, everyone is having a go at Dominic Calvert-Lewin for missing a chance. And that's fair enough, because he missed a chance he should have scored. But Dom might be looking at it going, hang on. I missed an opportunity that another day I score. Last week, Richarlison scored an overhead kick, but we conceded 2 to Norwich. The week before, Anthony Gordon scored twice, but we conceded 3 to Brighton. Again, a few weeks before that, we score, but we concede, a couple of goals. We lose a game. We're losing games. So the attackers at the moment, I feel like, will be there thinking, well, maybe we could do a little bit better, but we're sort of doing our job. The defenders aren't. We've conceded the first goal in the last 10 Premier League games. That's abysmal. That is absolutely abysmal. And it's not good enough. It's simply not good enough. And if it carries on, we're going down. We are going down. Forget you. If it carries on, we'll be in a relegation battle. We're in a relegation battle. We're well in a relegation battle now. You can't be any more in a relegation battle than what Everton are. We've got a relegation. Forget 6-pointer, 18-pointer coming up against Newcastle in a couple of weeks' time after the international break. We are well and truly in a relegation battle. But anyway, before we talk a little bit more specifically about the game, we'll talk about Duncan's team selection and some of the decisions that the manager made on the day as well. Let's have a little look at the latest in regards to the managerial situation. We're not going to talk too much on the managerial situation, as I said, but we'll touch on it because I understand a lot of people will not have read or heard or know the latest on the situation. So, pardon me. Aside to Everton, the latest news on managers in general is that Claudio Ranieri has just been sacked by Watford, literally about 5 or 10 minutes ago. So that is another Premier League side who will now be looking for another manager, another side fighting relegation who will be looking for the managers to come in, stabilise them and get them out of this situation. And Everton have got to hope that, well, we make the right decision. Well, not hope, but Everton have got to make the right decision and hope that Watford make the wrong decision. What if Watford go out and get Sam Allardyce and he stabilises them and he keeps them up? And then you've got Newcastle, who might stay up because they've got this, feel-good factor about the club. You've got Norwich, who are on a good run of form and winning games at the moment. It's only a matter of time before Everton gets dragged into that pit. And by that pit, I mean relegation zone with basically, very few opportunities to get out of there. I don't get it. But anyway, latest on the managerial situation is that according to Pedro Sepulveda, who was the journalist in Portugal who I believe reported the story about Vito Pereira first last night, we sat down and we talked about the story that he reported about Vito Pereira being approached by Everton. He has said that Vito Pereira will sign until the end of the season with Everton with an option of a further year. Pedro Almeida, who is a different journalist over in Portugal, albeit with the same name, he said that advanced talks between Vito Pereira and Everton on a 2-year contract 1 year with an option of a further year. The deal is in its final stages. That was earlier today. The Liverpool Echo reported that Vitor Pereira is one of 3 potential candidates being considered for the Everton job. Wayne Rooney and Frank Lampard have also been discussed. And the Hunter from The Guardian and Fabrizio Romano said that Everton has used to hold talks with Vitor Pereira today. Pereira is one of a number of candidates being assessed. Wayne Rooney and Niko Kovac are also of interest, while Frank Lampard has been interviewed, and Fabrizio Romano himself said that Vitor Pereira will be in England in the coming hours to meet with the Everton board, contact staff and details to be discussed in order to make the final decision. Key hours and days ahead to find out who the new permanent Everton manager is. So, again, some sources, certainly over in Portugal, are reporting that this is basically as done can be without confirmation. Other sources are maybe a little bit more hesitant to go that far and saying that, he is being considered and he will be interviewed, but maybe not as adamant to say it's as done of a deal. Have, some of the Portuguese journalists jumped the gun a little bit, or are the other journalists that you may deem as a little bit more reliable just sort of waiting on more information from the club before they put anything out? What's really, really interesting is Proxima Jornada, who are a Portuguese-based Twitter page who tweet, about Portuguese football, Portuguese players, Portuguese managers. They addressed the confusion between the 2 journalists who both named Pedro, because some people were getting them confused. And they said that just to clear up any confusion, I think some people are getting mixed up between 2 journalists based in Portugal. Both are called Pedro. Pedro Sepp Ulveida, who is the source that is reporting the Vitor Pereira news, is known in Portugal for being reliable. Not that he's 100% all of the time, but he's as good as you can get. So the journalist who is reporting that the Pereira deal is as good as done, and it's a contract until the end of the season, well, a 1-year contract, and with the option of a further year. Apparently, according to, obviously somebody who is very, 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 in touch with Portuguese football, albeit not to say that that's, exactly correct, but again, that, as I said, that Twitter page is very in touch with Portuguese football, is saying that, this journalist is basically as good as you'll get over in Portugal. So it either looks like Vitor Pereira will be the new Everton manager, or certainly is under serious consideration by the Everton board to become the new Everton manager. Yeah. Listen, we spoke about him, Vitor Pereira, rather not Vitor Pereira, Vitor Pereira. Yeah, listen, we spoke about him yesterday. I'm not going to touch on him too much today because it is the game review, but this is a gigantic risk that, in my opinion, Everton can't afford to take. And if this goes wrong for Farhad Moshiri, then there's no way back. There's simply no way back. But, let's hope that it goes right. Let's hope that it works, and I'm sure we'll talk about more, that much more either later tonight or certainly, tomorrow when we do another live stream. But for now, let's focus on the game on Saturday. So, as I said, Duncan Ferguson put out his starting 11 an hour before the game, and to a lot of people's surprise, both Vitaly Mikalenko and Nathan Patterson were not involved in the matchday squad whatsoever. Now, that was a surprise to me as well. Not necessarily that they weren't starting the game, because, again, I would understand that both young players. Mikalenko wasn't great against Norwich. Let's be honest. He made a couple of big mistakes that led to goal scoring opportunities, and I would understand if Duncan Ferguson, saw those mistakes as ones we couldn't afford to make against Aston Villa. But to not have either of them in the squad whatsoever was a little bit strange for me. Now again, we still don't know the reasons for that. It might be that, again, they may have had injuries, or they may have not been fit enough. There was a report going around that Mikalenko picked up a minor injury. Again, that has been, that's not confirmed, it's unconfirmed, and that's just Twitter stuff, at the moment. But as I said, it's a difficult one to touch on, because it's such a big decision by the manager, and a decision that if both were fit, I think is baffling. I love Duncan Ferguson as much as the next Blue, and I was a big advocate for him to become the next Everton manager. But when you spend £30-odd million on 2 fullbacks, and neither of them can make a matchday squad when fit, especially given the weakness of the Everton squad and how thin and threadbare this Everton squad is, that doesn't make any sense to me. It really, really doesn't make any sense to me. But as I said, we don't fully know the reasons behind that yet. I would like to assume that there was reasons behind, the pair not being involved in the matchday squad. But again, we simply don't know. But the manager did go with Jordan Pickford in goal, as to be expected. Ben Godfrey at left back, which again, if Mikalenko isn't fit or wasn't going to play, then Ben Godfrey naturally takes that position at left back. Yerry Mina was in the team next to Mason Holgate at centre back, which was certainly an interesting decision. I know a lot of people were advocating Michael Keane being dropped, and that's fine, because Michael Keane has been woeful recently, and I've got no problem with Michael Keane being taken out of the team. Not a massive fan of having Mason Holgate in there, but I understand that we've got very limited options, so if it's not going to be Michael Keane, then it pretty much has to be Mason Holgate. And then obviously John Joe Kenny at right back. Again, I understand that Seamus Coleman hasn't been playing particularly well recently. John Joe had picked up a couple of assists in his last couple of Everton appearances, albeit defensively he isn't very good, and we've known that for a while now. But the right back one was the big situation for me. I wasn't too displeased by the left back situation, because although it would have been nice to see Mikalenko play, and he needs to play to get used to the league, and he needs to play to get used to the pacing and to cut out those silly mistakes that he was making that he made against Norwich. I sort of understood that for a game that we needed to win and needed to get something out of, for defensive structure and ability. I'd get why the manager Duncan Ferguson would go with Ben Godfrey in that position over to Mikalenko. And if Mikalenko was on the bench, I would sort of understand the decision. The Patterson decision, if Patterson was fit, I simply don't understand why John Joe Kenny was in that team. Because as much as he runs about, as much as he gives his heart, as much as he's got the battle, he's got the desire, he's got the determination, and I'm sure John Joe Kenny wants to fight for this football club as much as any other player, partly probably because he's out of contract in the summer and he'll be wanting to play for a new contract. The reality is he's not very good. Let's not sugarcoat it. Let's call a spade a spade. He works hard, he battles, there's desire, there's commitment, but he's not very good. He couldn't pass a ball 5 yards the other day. He was playing the ball out to play when we had a free pass on in front of him. And he showed why he shouldn't be starting games of football for Everton. And if Seamus Coleman can't get in this Everton team over John Joe Kenny, then it's not looking good for Seamus Coleman's future either, to be fair, because John Joe, let's be honest, £500 million spent in the last 5 years. John Joe Kenny shouldn't be anywhere near Everton. He should have had his hand shook years ago and told, thanks for your time, thanks for coming through the academy, all the best of luck. We'll be keeping an eye out for you for your career. But as far as Everton are concerned, you're not good enough. But he started. Obviously, Dunk went with a 4-4-2 with Abdoulaye Doucouré and Andre Gomes in the midfield. Alan made the bench. Again, not a massive surprise to see Alan, not in the starting 11, partly because he was out with COVID, and he's not the quickest player in the first place, is he? So, to say he'd been, a week without training, and he'd been a week with a virus that can primarily attack the chest, it doesn't surprise me that he wasn't ready to start, albeit he come on with pretty much a full half of football to play and was great, so that doesn't make much sense. We had Andros Townsend and Damari Gray on the wings, and obviously Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front. Now, a couple of things for me, I was sort of not really happy with the team selection. I personally would have probably rather have had Anthony Gordon in there than Andros Townsend, but I understood why Andros Townsend started if the tactic was going to be pretty much spend the whole game crossing balls into Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. You've got two absolutely excellent headers of the ball there in Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. Two of the best headers in the league. With two players who had have been given the chances with aerial balls into the box would have ran Tyrone Mings ragged. I've got no worries about saying that whatsoever. And you've also got a winger there in Andros Townsend who his biggest attribute is his crossing, is his ability to put a ball into the box, or his ability to shoot from outside the box. And yet, we never did any of it. Townsend was a passenger for the entirety of the time that he was on the pitch. Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison were given the usual treatment of just lumping the ball up to them and hope that they take it down, take 4 or 5 players on and score a goal out of nothing, which is never going to work. Damari Gray was trying, he was working hard, he was battling, but again, nothing was coming from it. There was no end product. And as I said, we pretty much found out within the opening 5 or 10 minutes of the game why a three-man midfield was, again, an absolute necessity. And I don't know if I can watch another Everton game where we don't play a three-man midfield. Whether it's Duncan Ferguson, whether it's Vito Pereira, or whoever it is who takes charge of Everton, against Brentford or against Newcastle in the coming weeks, I don't know if I can watch if we haven't got a three-man midfield. Villa lined up with Douglas Luiz, Coutinho, John McGinn, and Emi Buendia within that midfield. Albeit I understand that positional-wise, a couple of them were playing in forward areas, but as a midfield group, they were there. And we lined up with Andre Gomez, who off the ball is a woeful footballer. On the ball, technically good. As I've said this, for a while. If you give the ball to Andre Gomez and you stand away from him, you'd think this fella is unbelievable. He's untouchable. He's great. Off the ball, he's not very good. Andre Gomez is a very much a luxury player, and by that what I mean is he's not. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say useless, because that's a bit unfair. And he's had some good games this season. He's made impacts in games this season. He made an impact against Arsenal. But what I would say is, off the ball, when you need somebody to cover and you need somebody to help out Abdoulaye Doucouré and do that defensive work, he can't defend. He can't really attack. He doesn't score goals. He doesn't get many assists. He's a player that looks comfortable on the ball and is, as I said, sometimes when you're in a bit of a pressured situation, he takes it down. He holds it well. He uses his body. But when you've got to push to score goals, and when you've got to push to create chances, and when you've got to get back and defend and throw everything at being, defending, he's just not. He's not good enough to do that. He's absolutely not good enough to do that. And when you're putting him next to Doucouré, you then put Abdoulaye Doucouré under immense pressure, which leads to Abdoulaye Doucouré working extra harder because he's doing the job of three men. Because he's not just doing the job of himself and Andre Gomez, he's also doing the job of the other midfielder that should be on the pitch. So he's doing the job of three players. No wonder he's pulling up with hamstring injuries or thigh injuries or whatever it was and he's having to go off. Because he's working tirelessly, because he's trying to cover various different positions. You can't afford to have luxury players when we're in a relegation battle, and B, you're coming up against a team with 4 or 5 midfielders on the pitch. You can't afford to have one Andre Gomez who's dead silky on the ball, but in terms of actual product and what you get out of him, it's very little. Very, very little. And what I would say is if Alan's on the bench, and Alan's sort of, there and ready to come on and have an impact, then he should be starting. If Alan wasn't in the team at all, I would say, well, he's not in the side. He's not involved, so he's obviously not fit. He's not injured. There's not much we can do there. But if he's on the bench and he's fit enough to come on in the second half with half an hour to go, then why not even start him in the game and have that three-man midfield from the off and make it really tough for Villa? And then if you need to take him off, you're taking him off. But you've been able to control the game a lot more. You've been able to weaken Aston Villa's attack a lot more. And then you take him off for somebody like an Onyango who comes on and just fills straight in. I get that we haven't got many options and Delph injured or got off or whatever. I'm not really asked about Delph, and Davis is still out, and Gabaman, obviously isn't that good. I get all of that. Lavovich says, looking at your comments on Gomez, would you prefer Davis? Do you know what? This is probably going to be controversial, but it actually depends. It depends. Starting a game of football in this situation, I'd have preferred Tom Davis, because I think you get more out of him. I think he fights a little bit more, he gets involved, he gets stuck in a little bit more. In the 6, I would rather Tom Davis than Andre Gomez, 100%. If you're chasing a game or trying to get something out the game and you're bringing a player on with 25 minutes to go, I'd rather it be Andre Gomez, because he's better at doing that. If you're looking for someone who is just going to, see the game out and hold the ball up and use his body and be a little bit more experienced and a bit more clever, I would have Andre Gomez on the pitch. But as a holding 6, I think Tom Davis is more effective than Andre Gomez. I just don't think Andre Gomez is effective enough. And then you leave all of that responsibility on Abdoulaye Doucouré, who himself isn't the greatest defender in the world, or isn't, again, excellent, works 100%, works his arse off, battles, fights, great. I love Abdoulaye Doucouré, but in terms of technical football, that he's not he's not fucking... He's not one of the best in the world, is he? Let's be honest. But again, we're without him now, and it's a massive loss. We've got Alam, Gomez, and Gabaman, who are our 3 fit midfielders, and Tyler Onyango. One is a young kid who has got nowhere near enough Premier League experience. One is, never fit, and when he is fit, clearly isn't very good because he's been fit for a while and never been chosen. One is ineffective off the ball and a luxury player, and the other is Alan, who is a good defensive player, but we all know when he hasn't got someone like a Decore next to him who's going to do the running round and the dog work for him, he's nowhere near as good himself either. So the midfield is a massive issue at the moment, and we seriously need to go out and recruiting it. And this is the biggest worry is, we can look at it and go, it's 24th of January and we've got no manager, we've got no director, we've got no director of football, we've got no manager. We need to get a manager in. But we're not being linked with players now. We still need a centre midfielder and a centre back if we're going to have serious hopes of, comfortably staying in this league. We need to invest in this squad. How can you do that with no manager and no director of football? And this is why I had to give it into Duncan Ferguson on the Sunday that Rafa Benitez was sacked. Because at least then, whether he was everyone's choice, whether he tactically was made bad decisions at the weekend, at least then we'd know where we are. And Duncan would be able to go, right, let's focus on bringing in another centre midfielder and another centre back. And come the end of the window, we'd be stronger. Now, I other than maybe a couple of loan deals on deadline day, which maybe means you might see Dele Alli or you might see Ross Barkley, I don't see us signing a player that we can look at and go, yeah, he's going to save the season for us. Because there's, a week to go in the transfer window. We've not got a manager. And we've not got a director of football. So it's worrying. It is worrying. As I said, we will get in the live comments in a moment, by the way. So if you are watching live, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. That would mean a great deal to me. Loads of comments. Again, unbelievable. Nearly 100 people watching as well. If we could, hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new as well. We're aiming towards 6,000 subscribers now. We've just hit 5.7 today, so thank you all so much. But if you are enjoying, you could hit that like button. If you could share the stream, that'd be great as well. But we had chances in that first half. We had a chance in that first half, which was a key moment in the game. As I said, the game kicks off and it's very physical from the off. Very physical. Aston Villa come out, they make it physical, and it's a tight game. It is, whether you like it or not. It's a tight game. Villa aren't by any stretch of the imagination dominating. It's not a comfortable game for them. They had probably the better of the chances. They had one free kick which Douglas Luiz hit really, really well, and it went over the bar, and you could maybe say he was a little bit unlucky, for that one to sail over the bar. They had, they had a chance where Yerry Mina headed it over Jordan Pickford, and Jordan had to turn around and react quickly, and they had one where I think it was Ollie Watkins who went through one-on-one with goal, one-on-one on goal. Very similar situation actually to Ollie Watkins' goal last season at Goodison Park, where Mason Holgate had to Cruyff turn it, and he went one-on-one and scored. This time it wasn't Mason Holgate, to be fair, but again, a mix-up defensively, and Watkins gets one-on-one and puts it past Jordan Pickford, and unfortunately for Everton, it was past the post as well. So, you could say Aston Villa had the best of the chances, but Everton, I think, had the best chance of the half until the goal come, and that was Abdoulaye Doucouré and Richarlison being basically 2-on-1. Because let's be honest, Tyrone Mings was attacking back, but we all know he's not great. And the other defenders were 10-15 yards behind the play. And all as Abdoulaye Doucouré had to do was play it into Richarlison. Richie would have been one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and he would have scored. We'd have been 1-0 up, the atmosphere would have changed, the mood would have lifted, there would have been a massive weight off of our shoulder, and all of a sudden, the atmosphere, the attitude, the feeling around the club would have been much more positive. But he plays a woeful pass. And as I said before, I love Abdoulaye Doucouré. I think he's great. But he plays a woeful pass. An absolutely awful ball. And this is what I'm saying is These are the margins where you'd have to look at it and think, if Norwich were in that situation, would they score? Probably. If Newcastle were in that situation, would they score? Probably. If Watford were in that situation, would they score? Well, they scored twice from that situation against Everton at Goodison Park. If most other Premier League teams were in that situation, would they score? And I get you could say, yeah, Cam, but, get off his back. It was one chance. It was one, everyone misses a chance. Everyone misplaces a pass. I get that. But we're in a relegation battle. We can't afford to misplace them types of passes. We can't afford for those opportunities to bypass us. We needed the goal. And Zakore massively misplaces his pass. And Emi Martinez ends up running out and clearing it. And then, which was arguably more annoying, Emi Martinez then spent about 5 fucking minutes basically on the halfway line looking for a pass, and no one put any fucking pressure on him. I was sitting there in my seat screaming, saying he stood there with the ball on the halfway line, and every Everton player has sort of gone, oh, that was a missed chance, that. Let's stand around now for 5 minutes and just sort of think about how we missed that chance and how we should have done better. The goalkeeper had the ball on the halfway line with an open goal. Why we weren't running straight at him and trying to win it back and make another opportunity is beyond me. But again, this team, this squad of players, just sort of, again, we're sort of heads down and, we've missed a chance, we've missed another opportunity, what do we do now? Crowd obviously at that point was frustrated and flat, but there was no player went, hang on, goalkeepers took the ball out to the halfway line here, let's put a bit of pressure on him. Even if you don't get the ball off the goalkeeper, you put the pressure on him, he's more likely to make a mistake, kick it out, kick it to one of our players, the attack goes again, that bit of momentum, the crowd gets up. But we just hang our heads and wait, and it's like that, sympathy to ourselves of like, oh yeah, we missed the chance there, and you're thinking, why don't you just put the extra pressure on? We pressed a little bit, but again, as people have spoken about, and I've spoken about a couple of times, it's that half-arsed press, isn't it? It's that we'll sort of press a little bit, but we won't really press too much. We'll sort of just, toy with it. We'll get out there a bit, but we won't quite go, and we won't quite go as a team. One player will just go, and then that leaves, an opposition player open, and that's how you can see goals. It's a team void of ideas. It's a team void of plans. It's a team void of confidence at the moment. I think the confidence of these players is absolutely rock bottom. I don't think it could be much worse or much lower at the moment. And it's a team void of quality. And when you add all of those things together, you make a relegation fight. And ultimately, again, that was another game we needed to win. And that was another chance we needed to take, and we didn't. But anyway, it was unlucky, you could say. It was a misplaced pass. You move on, you get your head up, and you go again. And like I said, it was a competitive half of football. They were battling, we were battling. They probably had better chances, but they weren't. They weren't. Some people saying, they absolutely played it off the park in that first half. Everyone got nowhere near the game. Well, did Villa have a shot on target in that first half? I don't know. Did they? Maybe one. Everton would have had a shot on target if our players could pass a ball. So they didn't play us off the park whatsoever. This narrative is nonsense. But they do go up. They get a corner. Ball comes in, gets cleared back out again. They get another corner. And this time, Luka Dean, evidently, obviously, why would it not be Luka Dean, plays the corner in, and Emi Buendia gets his head on it. Directs it towards goal, and all of a sudden we're 1-0 down. Another goal conceded from a set piece. Another goal conceded from a corner. And another game, 10th game on the bounce in the Premier League, where we go a goal down, and it's an uphill battle for us. How many times are we going to keep putting ourselves in this position where we've got to come back from a losing position? We've got to have that uphill battle. How many times? When are we just going to learn to stop conceding stupid goals? When are we going to learn to be able to defend corners? Every time this Everton team concede a corner now, they must be thinking, oh my God, I am terrified. I am terrified about this. And that's why they're making mistakes on every one of them. Because they're not sitting there thinking, just the corner, we'll get rid of it, we'll defend it. It must be, shit, we've conceded the corner here. It's as good as a goal for opposition teams at the moment. It really, really is. I used to say that an Everton corner was as good as a goal kick, because we never used to have anybody that could take a decent corner. Now, the other way round, conceding a corner is as good as conceding a goal. because most of the time they end up in goals. You know, Aston Villa all of a sudden are 1-0 up. And Everton have got another uphill battle. The atmosphere at that point was on the floor. And to be fair, it was on the floor for most of the game. And you could say fans needed to do a bit more and there needed to be a bit more responsibility. But when you've got an owner who has dragged this football club through the mud for the last 5 years and a chairman who is coming out and saying things like, we've had good times when we haven't, what do you expect the atmosphere to be like? You know, should we really have expected there to be a massive uplift? For there to have been an uplift in atmosphere, what really we could have done with was Abdoulaye Doucouré playing a decent pass to Richarlison and us going 1-0 up. That would have lifted the atmosphere. That would have lifted the tone, and it maybe would have been a different game. But again, you know, we didn't, and we got 1-0 down. And we'll touch on the incident, because listen, you know, obviously, you know, the Aston Villa players went over and celebrated their goal. I think they all ran towards Luca Dean because he'd taken the corner, and that's genuinely what happens when teams score from set pieces. They run over to the set piece taker because the goal scorer runs over to thank him, and everybody runs with the goal scorer. Obviously, a bottle was thrown from the stands, which we heavily condemn. You know, nobody should be throwing items on the football pitch towards players. You know, regardless of the situation we're in, regardless of how bad things are, regardless of you know, how frustrated we are as a fan base, and how sort of upset we feel, and how disconnected we feel with the football club, that isn't an excuse to ultimately throw a bottle on it or any form of item on the pitch. You know, we're seeing in other football games, not just the Goodison coins thrown and things like that, somebody can get seriously hurt. And whether somebody was seriously hurt in this game is irrelevant, really. It's irrelevant, isn't it? You know, nobody should be throwing things on the pitch. It gives the club a bad reputation. It's all over the newspapers now and the news. I think it was a head story on ITV News. You know, Evertonians, and we all know, for anybody that lives in and around, you know, the UK and understands the political situation that we're in at the moment, and I'm not going to go into politics because that's not what this is about, but we all know that this government, over the years, since the 80s, 70s, have looked for anything and everything to have a go at certainly Scousers for. And we don't need to be giving these people excuses to have a go at us. We don't need to be giving these people reasons to put us everywhere and go, look at how awful these people are, look at how disgraceful this is. It's not on. It shouldn't be happening. You know, whether the players threw themselves on the floor or not, it doesn't matter. Things shouldn't be being thrown from the stands. They shouldn't be. It's just not what Everton are about, and it sure gives us a bad rep. And it's not. It's got no place within football. No place within football. But yeah, Aston Villa score. We go 1-0 up. You know, you're sort of thinking, right? Well, you know, it's a mad sort of atmosphere around the club at the moment because, you know, we went 1-0 down. We conceded in the 48th minute or something like that. Even though there was only 2 minutes, you know, of added time, we conceded in whatever minute it was. Certainly after the 2 minutes, Tom says not going to go into politics, then goes into a politics round. And it's the truth, mate. It's again, I'm not going to go into politics because I think they're all knobheads, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, every single politician. But you know, it just gives the club a bad reputation, and that's, you know, for one idiot's actions, that's not fair on everybody else. We're all frustrated, we're all angry. I came home and you know, had a face on for the whole of Saturday night. I couldn't be arsed. But you know, that doesn't mean you go out and you do stupid things, does it? But yeah, you know, as I said, you go in at half time, and in a normal situation, in a normal scenario, and with other football teams and other clubs, you know, their fans might go, well, okay, we're 1-0 down, yeah. We've conceded a silly goal, yeah. But, you know, we've got 45 minutes to get back in this game, yeah. We'll make a couple of, you know, changes. We'll move a couple of things about, and we'll go and get back in this game. Villa, as I said, despite what the media want to tell you, weren't particularly great. They weren't dominant. It was a close game. It was a tight game. But there was this overall overriding, for me anyway, don't know if anybody else felt like this, there was this overriding feeling of, yeah, we're not getting back in this game now, we've lost it. Because I just don't think these players have got the bottle to get back into games at the moment. I just don't think these players have got the want, the ideas. We've got no ideas. And ultimately, the team just seemed void of any creativity, any real, defensive acumen. We just seem like there's nothing. I watch Everton at the moment, I watch the players, and I just see nothing. There's no emotion, there's no desire. They worked harder on Saturday than what they have done recently, but there was still nothing there. It was hard work put over, absolutely nothing. An empty performance, wasn't it, really? We weren't putting Villa under massive amounts of pressure. We had one or two chances that you sort of go, here's the chance, but it didn't come about. And that was pretty much what the second half was. Let's get into some of the live comments before we do go into the second half. Where are we then? Pokey says, don't forget to like the team, guys. Come on, you Blues is right. Lavvid says, it's pronounced Vito. I thought it was Victor. It's Vitor, I think, or Vito. Again, I don't know. I suppose it's pronounced however you want it to be pronounced, but it may well be pronounced new Everton manager over the next 24, 48 hours or so. Eugene says Jim White was talking about Managerial and Talksport today. Yeah. And let's touch on the Jim White situation. As I said, we're not here to talk about the managerial situation or the board because we've got plenty of days to talk about that. But I think the Jim White situation's a funny one because a lot of Evertonians, I think, naturally, because of the relationship Jim White had with Managerial, have a go at Jim White. And it's like, oh, Jim this, that and the other. Jim White's this, Jim White's that, Jim White's the other. The reality is, Jim White isn't doing anything wrong. Jim White is a journalist. And a journalist's job is to get information that nobody else has got their hands on so that they can report it and they can speak about it and they can talk about it first, and then it's exclusive to them, and then their viewership will boost their numbers. People will read their tweets and watch their shows because they've got information nobody else has got. So all Jim White's doing is being a good journalist and going, well, I know that I can phone the Everton owner here, so I can wait 6 months for them to do a statement on evertonfc.com, or I can phone them up, get a couple of sound bites over the phone, and then either record them and show them on the show, or go back to the viewers and say, I've just spoke to Farhad Moshiri, blah, 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 blah. So Jim White isn't the problem. The problem is the owner coming out and in a statement with Everton saying, I'm a private person, I don't really talk too much, but then answering phone calls to journalists and talking as much as he has done in recent weeks about the club. Again, he's been on, talking to Jim today on TalkSport. I was listening this morning. He said that the club are working towards communicating much more with the fans. In fact, you know what? I'll read what the owner said because I may as well. We're live. It's not got anything to do with the game, but we're live and we'll read what he said. The owner said, bear with me 2 seconds while I get the quotes up. The owner said that we are going through a direct communication route with our fans. He said that... Oh, God, it's not coming up. He said that we are working to communicate better with our fans, and he also said we are working like crazy to get this appointment right. I understand the fans' frustration. So again, Moshiri coming out and talking about working for better communication with the fans, but then going through TalkSport, who are one of the biggest problems the fans have got, to say that. Interesting. But I think he also said something along the lines of, I won't be talking to you for the time being, Jim, which was quite funny, really. But again, shows that, Farhad Moshiri only really will make these decisions when fans are putting that pressure on him and saying, well, why are you going to Jim White? I've got no problem with Moshiri going to Jim White and giving him the odd little bit of information, because that's all journalists do. They go to these people and they get their odd bits and bobs and then they put them out. But when he's coming out to us and saying he's a private person and that's why he doesn't communicate with us much, but then he's going and talking to Jim White every week, you're just contradicting yourself, mate. That's the problem. Jim White is just a journalist trying to do his job. The problem is the owner of the football club. But anyway, that's an issue for a different video. And if you want to hear my thoughts on the owner and the communication and all of that sort of stuff, then, you can check out yesterday's live stream where we spoke about it for over an hour. You can check out pretty much every live stream over the last week or so. We speak about it a lot. And Andy says, sounds like he's breaking up with his girlfriend. It does, yeah. What is to work? Put Rooney in, job done, says Ryan. I'd rather have Rooney than Vito Pereira, if I'm being honest with you. Eugene says, did you hear talks about? Yes. Dom says, should we go and get Dele Alli and Ross Barkley on loan? If I'm being honest, I think we'll end up with one of them. Jason says, hi, Cam, hi, everybody. Hi, mate. Jem says, Eto Hernandez was the name of jeans. Everybody even. Dom says we lose to Newcastle. Mike says, any news on why Michaelenko and Patterson didn't feature? I don't know. And Gavin says, it will never end until people realise Kenny, Holgate, Keane, Townsend, Coleman, Delph, Wobie, Rondon are shit and shouldn't start games, plus get a replacement for DCL he offers on. I disagree with the DCL comments, but I think most people have realised that a lot of those players don't offer much, but we haven't got anybody else, have we? So, you know, what do we do there? But anyway, let's get back into the game. As I said, we come out for the second half, and Dunk quite proactively makes a couple of changes. Now, I don't know why he didn't make the changes at half-time. If he was going to make them on the 55th minute, I don't know why he didn't just make them at half-time. Maybe he was seeing if anything changed. Maybe there was a message at half-time that he was waiting to see if it was implemented, and it very clearly wasn't implemented, which is a worry. But he brought Alan on, obviously, in the midfield, and he brought Anthony Gordon on in there, and then, obviously, eventually he brought Tyler on Yango on when Abdoulaye Doucouré had to go off. I thought the changes changed the game for Everton. I thought we looked better when the players come on. Alan showed the midfield up a lot more, and especially during that period where he was playing next to Abdoulaye Doucouré, we looked a lot better. We looked a lot more comfortable. Villa all of a sudden were finding it a little bit more difficult to break through us. Anthony Gordon was, again, arguably the best player on the pitch in an Everton shirt when he come on, and for me, just nailed on the fact that he should start every single game that Everton play until the end of the season. You know, this lad shouldn't be dropped. He shouldn't be benched. If you're going to bench anybody, it's got to be someone like Hansos Townsend now, who, again, wasn't great the other day, albeit has had a good season, but, you know, you're benching a young lad who not only gives it 100% every time he's on the pitch, but in terms of attacking presence and creativity, he offers more than like most other players. Certainly in creating chances. Damari Gray offers more scoring goals, as does Richarlison, as does, you know, Dom. Well, not Dom at the moment, but Dom, you know, in general. But Anthony Gordon offers more creatively, setting up goals, getting other people involved. So for me, he's got to start in every game. And he had an impact. He had an impact instantly, as I said. You know, he was chasing down, he was battling, he was throwing himself about, he was winning the ball, he was in the referee's face. He lifted the mood a little bit within the ground, you know, albeit it wasn't lifted dramatically. I think there was still a lot of, you know, stress and anxiety because we were losing the game, and we were heading towards another loss. But you know, there was certainly a lift. We certainly looked a little bit better. He had, you know, he put an absolute corker of an opportunity on the plate for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And as I said before, listen, Dom should be scoring. You know, I don't necessarily subscribe to this stuff that Dominic Calvert-Lewin's awful and he's a championship striker, because we hear this every time he misses a chance. Every time he misses a chance, he's the worst striker we've ever had, and he needs getting rid of, and this, that, and the other. And everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and that's fine, and I appreciate and understand everyone's opinion. I disagree with it massively. But that's what we're here for, that's what the channel's here for, that's what, you know, that's what these streams are for people to have discussions and debates and to sensibly, you know, discuss these things. But Dom ultimately missed the chance that we needed him to score. And as I said, in another game, in another situation, if we weren't in such a desperate position in the league, and if it wasn't such a heightened situation at the moment, then that chance would have just been one of them where you go, oh, Dom missed the chance. Most strikers, you won't find one striker in the league. Lionel Messi will miss chances. Lewandowski will miss chances. I'm not comparing Dom to these players, but what I'm saying is every forward player misses chances. And you could say, well, Dom missed a penalty the other day as well, and Dom hasn't scored for this long. Well, he's been out injured for 3-4 months. You know, he's only just coming back. He will score goals. I do need to change the graphic here. See, graphic says should change the Happy New Year. That'll be changed by the next live stream, by the way. Some people were commenting, like, do me head in now this Happy New Year. I don't know why, it's literally just words on the screen, but I will change it before the next live stream. But Dom missed a chance, and he will miss chances, of course he will, because he's a footballer, and they do that. Because of the heightened situation we're in, that chance Dominic Calvert-Lewin missed seems much, much worse than what it would if we were fighting for 6th or 7th or whatever, and we'd lost the game, or if we'd have gotten a point out of this game. If we'd have gotten a point out of this game, or won the game, we'd be sitting here saying, well, Dom missed the chance, yeah, but, you know, again, he's only just coming back, and you've got to give him a bit of time and this, that, and the other. But because he missed the chance and we went on to lose it, it's obviously more heightened. And to be fair, listen, some people have been a little bit giving him a bit of leeway and said it was a difficult chance. It was a tough chance, but for me, he's got to be scoring that, especially given the situation Everton are in. He's got to be scoring that without shadow of a doubt. He's got to put that one in the back of the net, and he didn't ultimately, and that was a big opportunity for Everton. And we needed to. That was the chance that you look at and you go, that was it. And then, after that, we didn't really have much more, did we? As I said, Tyler and Yango come on for Doucouré. We don't know the extent of Abdoulaye Doucouré's injury yet, but it doesn't seem particularly positive at the moment. But we have got an international break, so hopefully these next couple of weeks he'll have time to recover, and rest and stuff. And, hopefully he'll be back, at some point soon. But other than that Dom chance, in the last 25, 30 minutes of the game, we didn't really have much, did we? We had a couple of corners. I think Mina put one over. I think Godfrey had one saved as well. I think Richarlison might have had one ahead to put over the bar. And then other than that, it was just a game that was sorted out by Aston Villa. The referee was abysmal, absolutely abysmal. But again, I'm not going to sit here and blame the referee. Nice for you, Robbo, lad. Nice of you to book your ticket for Wembley when you don't go to Anfield, but see you later, bro. Yeah, as I said, ultimately, we didn't really have an awful lot. We had a couple of half chances, headers, but we didn't put Emi Martinez under any amount of pressure. We didn't put the Aston Villa defence under any amount of pressure, and which is shocking considering they've got centre-halves in there like Tyrone Mings, who isn't very good. Semi says, have we talked about Mina putting a header into literal orbit? Yeah, like I said, you've got defenders there who are 6'6", centre-forwards who are tall. We were winning headers. Comfortably, but we're missing these chances. And when you concede goals, like, as I said, for fun, like it's Christmas and you're giving everyone a present, then you can't afford to miss chances at the other end of the pitch like that. And Aston Villa saw the game out. Again, worked a little bit harder in midfield, battled a little bit more, and ultimately, we the final whistle went and we've lost another game of football. Tyler Onyango come on and didn't really have much of an impact, but granted, he's a young lad. And again, it was a very difficult situation for him to come on in. I thought the other two substitutes made an impact, but it was very much too little too late. And again, it was still seemingly void of ideas. And I know it'll be very easy to put all of that on Duncan Ferguson. It's Dunk's fault. Dunk was in charge, he was void of ideas. Tactically he's awful, this, that and the other. But the reality is, should he have played free in midfield? Yes, he should. We don't know the situation on the two fullbacks, so it's hard to discuss. And, again, when your players' confidence are rock bottom, Dunk picked Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Dom missed the sitter. Now, as much as I don't think that's the end of the world, like some people do, what more can Dunk do? Dunk picked Yerry Mina, and a player who was 5'8", Kunza Hernandez, scored a header from a corner. And yes, we still look void of ideas, and yes, we need an injection of something new in this team, tactically something different, something that'll get the players working, but I don't know what that is. And I question whether the best manager in the world, whoever that may be, would be able to get anything out of this squad, because I don't know if the damage is just done, or been done by this point. I look and think, would any manager get anything out of these players? Would these players be able to stick, because ultimately at the end of the day, you can have as much tactical, nuance as you want and as much tactical, awareness as you want. But when your players can't play 5-yard passes without kicking the ball out of play, what more can you do? Semi says, Gabaman leaving the club in the summer. Hernandez says he's 100% going to get injured. And not play for the rest of the season. EFC Graphic, we all know it's coming. Everton. That I think EFC Graphic says hopefully Mina is back now and hopefully not getting injured for Colombia. He'll play for Colombia, won't he? Let's be honest. Jared says, says, why can we not play Gabaman in front of the front four? He's obviously not very good, is he? If Dunk's bringing on a young 18-year-old lad with half an hour to go in a must-win game over Gabaman, there's obviously reasons behind that. He's either not very good or he's just not committed enough. He's not impressing in training, whatever the reason may be, or he's not fit enough to compete in the Premier League, or he's not at that level. I don't know. Jared says surely he can do a job in front of that front four. Maybe he can't. DCL being linked with the move to Arsenal. Yeah, he is. For fuck's sake, Cam, take that awful picture of DCL down behind you. No, I'm not. Mate, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I'm not about to turn on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Because as I said before, and as I said yesterday, and as I've said a couple of times, Dominic Calvert-Lewin isn't the problem at Everton. Although some people might want to believe it, although some people might want to, want to think it, Dominic Calvert-Lewin isn't even in the top 50 problems at Everton. He really, really isn't. Jake says Camu was our owner when Moyes was in charge. Well, Ken Wright, wasn't it? Ken Wright ran the club for years, and still does run the club, doesn't he? Let's be honest. Or certainly has more of an involvement than he should do. Alex says just a small run of wins could turn this around. I'm not naive to the fact that we can go down, but I don't think we will. That's fair enough, and you're right, mate. Just a small number of wins can turn this around, and I'm not saying that we're 100% down. It's done, because you're right. A couple of wins, will get us out of this, but I just don't see where those couple of wins are coming from. And as I said, I just question whether these players have got the desire, the commitment to get those couple of wins. Gordon has to start the next game, let him run. We need to have a go now, and we need a win, says James. Yes, 100%. Richard said in the last 14 matches, Everton have won 1, drawn 3, and lost 10. Anyone who thinks this lot can't be relegated is deluding themselves. Worst team in the league on couldn't form all the best, Cam. I appreciate it, mate, and I agree with you, 100%. I have to be realistic with myself, so it doesn't hurt, says Hernandez. Alex says, we read that one. Charles said it when Ancelotti left, we should have gone from Ralph Hasenhüttl. Southampton were dreadful when he took over, and now a high-pressing team. Good results. Fair enough. Keelan says, people who think DCL is a problem should name a striker to replace him. Yeah, he has been injured for most of the season. Take a pack of crisps for Gabaman, says Semi. Yeah. And AFC Graphics doesn't mean much, but have you seen Vitor Pereira? It's not Pereira's Instagram. It's not officially. It's not Pereira. It's somebody pretending to be, from what I know. But yeah. Anyway, look, we're gonna leave it there then. Because I don't know how much more we can talk about this game without going insane. It was another defeat. Again, it really, really hit home, this one, because it was Dunk in charge. It was supposed to be, the fairy tale. It was supposed to be a win and a better performance and the start of something, something where we, knew where we get out of this horrible fight that we're in and we actually have a stable end to the season, and it just didn't end like that. And what I would say before we go is, if that was Everton giving 100%, and I don't see why they wouldn't give 100%, then I'm very, very worried. If that wasn't Everton giving 100%, then why? And if Duncan Ferguson can't get 100% out of these players, then who will? And ultimately, that's the biggest problem, isn't it? But another defeat. We now don't play until we play Brentford in the first week of February. And then we obviously play Newcastle in the Premier League after that, which is a 25-pointer. It really, really is. We simply need to win. Nothing less. If we don't win, then I just don't see us staying up, if I'm being honest with you. But we'll wait and see. So basically, we have to survive this and next season, so Machete can sell us. That would be a nightmare be over. Yeah, well, that was Jared. Jake says, Cam, the thing I absolutely love about our fans, I'm saying fans because the club can't care. If we don't clarify ourselves as a top team, we class ourselves as an emergent rebuilding team. Fabricio follows it, does he? Well, I don't know. I just read that it wasn't real, so who knows anymore? He's probably getting the job, isn't he? So that's probably why he's following it. Whammy says, I just hope that whoever the new guy is gets that modern football control from the midfield with pace down the wings, not 4-4-2 from 1994. Yeah. James says, well, I came out you well. Do you think John Joe Kenny is good enough to start right back every week? Not a chance. I would have Patterson in there over him every day. Jake says, I hope Chelsea batter Liverpool. Eugene says, see about the toffees. Thanks, Cam, says USA Toffee. Thank you very much, my mate. Where do you think Everton will be in when the new stadium? At the minute, I think we'll be in the Championship. Jake says, was Benitez to blame for Dom's injury? He backed it for injuries. You can't really blame anyone for injuries, can you? Semi says, thanks, Cam. Take care, my Blues. Thank you very much. Give the team a like, says Basic. Cheers, Basic. Really appreciate it. Hernandez says, all the best, mate. Everyone hit the like button. Pereira has just followed Everton on Twitter. Says, Don, when I checked Twitter before, he didn't have an official Twitter account either. So, yeah. Who knows? Anyway, look. We are going to finish it up there then. Massive thank you to everybody for joining us. If you've watched live in the live comments, really, really do appreciate it. Big thanks to everybody for watching live. It means a massive amount to me. If you're watching as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below. We'll get involved with as many of them as we can. Sorry we couldn't get involved with all of the live comments, but I really, really do appreciate it. If you could hit that like button, it would be absolutely fantastic. And if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe as well. That would mean a great deal to me. We will be back either later or tomorrow talking about the managerial situation, I would assume, because what else are we going to talk about? Jake says, great team, Cam, all the best. Thank you very much. Nico Kovac looks like a good shout, says Charles. Yeah, but again, not much around that at the moment. All the best, everyone. It's all the best, mate. Everyone hit the like. Thank you very much, Hernandez. Appreciate it. In fact, Hernandez, I'm gonna give you the moderator stuff. So there you go. Now I'm mod. Big thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this one, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.